So if you did check out my Burning Hearts Pro Wrestling predictions video for this tournament, you would have seen me say this. I would have Luke Jacobs win because you never bet against Luke Jacobs, like ever in anything. Never bet against Luke Jacobs because he'll always come out on top. Luke Jacobs, you had one job. One job. My reputation down the drain. Hello and welcome to FTTR, I am Hugh McQuaid, and today we are talking about Burning Heart Pro Wrestling, in particular their championship weekend, which took place last night in Liverpool at the Liverpool Olympia. And my God, I was excited for this show. I had tickets to this show, I went to this show. The card was stacked. Donovan Dijak versus Robbie X, Harley Hudson versus Danny Luna, Luke Jacobs versus Ethan Allen, Trent Severn versus Kenny Williams. Did I say Donovan Dijak versus Robbie X? Because that is an awesome match. Kid Lykos versus Mark Haskins, and the big tag team title match for the Burning Heart Pro Wrestling tag team titles, and a big scramble match. There's a lot of stuff on this card to be excited about, and I was excited. I think I've said that. But this show, I went to the first Burning Heart show, and I was thoroughly impressed. I thought it was a really good show from top to bottom. This show, I had my expectations like here, like pretty high. This show exceeded all my expectations. I thought the show was phenomenal. It was so fun. The wrestling was such a high caliber that I was just thoroughly entertained throughout. Every match had something different, particularly in the tournament matches, in the quarterfinals. Every match had something different. One of my favourite matches of the year took place on this show that I will remember for a long ass time. Yeah, I have no complaints with this show. It was awesome. Like, it was genuinely awesome, and compared to the first Burning Heart show, which I thought was really damn good, massively exceeded those expectations. So, before we dive into my full review, please subscribe, please like this video, please comment your thoughts down below, and I'll try to reply to every single one of them as we dive into my full review. I'll talk about every match, every angle, everything that happened, starting with Tony Wright, who was on announcing duties. He was really damn good, really likeable presence in the ring, and he kicked it off by announcing the first match, which was the quarterfinal match for the inaugural World Championship tournament, as Kid Lykos took on Mark Haskins. Now, I know these two can have an amazing match because I've seen them have an amazing match. They had an amazing match for Kid Lykos's world title after he won it off Spike Trivet in Progress. I think Mark Haskins was the first challenger. They had an awesome feud, really short feud, but it was really great, and they had a great match coming after that. So, I was hyped for this. I thought this would deliver, and it delivered in spades. This was a really fast-paced, really technical, really quick, energetic, frantic match, but everything was so clean, everything was so crisp. Mark Haskins and Kid Lykos have amazing chemistry together, and you could tell it was like counter after counter after counter after counter. It was awesome. I really enjoyed this, and I thought it was going to play out with Mark Haskins being booed, but he was loved. He was so loved here. He did no cheating shenanigans. There was no interference from Vicky Haskins, none of that. Instead, this was just two incredibly fast-paced, quick, technical wrestlers trying to one-up each other, and there was a really close spot. One of my favourite spots in the match was when Kid Lykos rolled Mark Haskins up and he got a really deep cover on him, and I was like, Lykos is going to win? No, Lykos didn't win. It was Mark Haskins who picked up the win. He hit the cradle to the grave for the 1, 2, 3. Awesome match. Really solid match. I had a smile on my face throughout this because this is two of my favourite wrestlers, two of the most underrated wrestlers in the world going at it. And yeah, I had an absolute blast with this match. It was such a hot, fast-paced way to open the show. Then we had the big 6-man scramble match. Now, I do have to apologise, I was not making notes at the show, so unfortunately, I've looked everywhere, I've looked high and low for the other competitors in this match, but I been unable to find their names, unfortunately. So this scramble match featured Wild Boar and Scott Oberman. And I think they were, particularly with the angle that came after, they were the focus. But I want to take this time to talk about how impressed I am with Scott Oberman. He has like an insane aura about him. Like a genuinely cool, sinister aura. And I thought that was the most captivating thing throughout this match. You had all the cool spots. You had everyone running in, hitting their big moves. Wild Boar just looking awesome and tossing people around all over the show. But Scott Oberman was the person who stood out the most to me. When he teased doing the dive and he did like a flying bird motion, I was like, that's interesting. Like the deadpan thing, looking dead at the audience. It's like, that's really cool. Like, I really like his aura. I really like his presence. But it was Wild Boar who picked up the win. Wild Boar just went on a tear. He was hitting like shotgun drop kicks on everyone. And eventually, he picked up the win. And from there, we had a tease. We had a tease as Wild Boar was about to be hit by Scott Oberman. He's about to get clocked with the Atomic Pro Wrestling belt. But he counters, goes to hit his package pile driver, which, speaking of the package pile driver that Wild Boar hit to pick up the win was awesome. He picks up the Atomic belt, and then it's announced later on that at Atomic Pro Wrestling, it will be Scott Oberman defending his Atomic Pro Wrestling Championship against Wild Boar. Awesome. I can't wait to watch that. I think that'll be sick. Like, Wild Boar, looked like he was just, I'm trying to think of how to describe what Wild Boar was like. Like Sonic. He was kind of like Sonic, just the way he would like insanely quickly just run around and knock people. I loved it. I love Wild Boar and I haven't seen him wrestle live ever, I don't think. So this was the first. And it was awesome. Yeah, really cool angle. And I like how it sets up something for another promotion. I like that connectivity right there. So yeah, check out Atomic Pro Wrestling as well. But yeah, this was a really solid angle to end the scramble match. And if I can find, by the time this uploads, if I can find the names of the other people in this match, I will either put them above my face or I will add them retroactively down below because I do want to give them their flowers. They were really cool in this match as well. Then we had the next semi-final match as Ethan Allen took on Luke Jacobs. Northwest Strong and the Young Guns implode. Now this was maybe my most anticipated match on the show because I love Luke Jacobs. Luke Jacobs is like one of my favourite wrestlers in the world right now. Going up against Ethan Allen, and they did not disappoint. This was everything I wanted it to be. From the second Ethan Allen goes to shake the hand of Luke Jacobs and Luke just flips him off, I was like, we're in for something special here. And we were, because they just beat the piss out of each other. They beat the piss out of each other. Luke Jacobs was playing the bad guy. He was playing the heel, which I think he's definitely better as a heel. I was, in my predictions, I was thinking he might get cheered, but no, he was definitely the bad guy here. And Ethan Allen was like the valiant underdog trying to come back. And he's got a great underdog vibe and great underdog spirit. When he was making his comebacks, when he was hitting the kicks, hitting the strikes, Ethan Allen was awesome. So it kept building until Ethan Allen made his comeback. He hit some sick moves like a double underhook suplex from the top rope, which Luke popped up and hit a clothesline. That was amazing. You had another one where they were just like no-selling each other's moves, hitting the big moves. Luke's popped up and hit a lariat again for a great near fall because Luke puts a lot of people away with his lariats. So when Ethan Allen kicked out of that, I was like, oh, surely not, but surely. Ethan Allen manages to pin Luke Jacobs. Ethan Allen advances in the tournament. My jaw hit the floor. I love Ethan Allen. I absolutely do. And I was not expecting to see Luke Jacobs lose. I just wasn't. I've been conditioned so well by other promotions that Luke Jacobs is a monster. He is a beast who just destroys people. I'm not used to seeing him lose. And he lost. And I was like, my pick is wrong because he was my winner. And I kind of love it because now it's thrown this entire tournament out of whack for me. I have no idea who's going to win. And that is so exciting. So exciting. I love a bit of unpredictability, and that was the biggest piece of unpredictability on this show. Yeah, I loved it. They had a sign of respect. They hugged after the match. It was awesome. Yeah, one of my favourite matches of the night. Then we did have my favourite match of the night, and that was, again in the semi-finals, Donovan Dijak taking on Robbie X. I love this match so much. The more I think about this match, the more I love this match, because it was so inverted. Donovan Dijak he's the good guy. He's the babyface here. Robbie X is the prick, the Bullet Club, and he's the smaller guy. So having almost an inverted David versus Goliath, because David is always supposed to be the good guy who's fighting back and coming back, but no, you had Robbie X working over Dijak, was really cool and really interesting, locking him in headlocks, getting him to the ground, chipping away at him. Robbie X was so unbelievably good at that. And when it built to the final moments, not even the final moments, like the final stretch, they were just hitting insane move after insane move. Some of the coolest stuff that I've seen. A huge choke bomb from Dijak to Robbie X from the top rope, which looked insane. Dijak going to hit a moonsault and moving. And then the final sequence was amazing. It was genuinely amazing. Robbie X goes... Well, first of all, you got to kick out of one spot when Dijak hit his moonsault eventually on Robbie X, and Robbie X kicked out at one. Dijak sold it really well. His face dropped. Robbie X fires up. I was like, that's that New Japan. That's that New Japan in Robbie X right there. And he starts making a little bit of a comeback. He goes for a big springboard from the turnbuckle, and Dijak catches him with his spinning boot. And it was amazing. Mid-air, picture perfect. And then he raises him up, hits the Feast Your Eyes for the 1, 2, 3. Donovan Dijak advances. Amazing. This was such a good match, and the more I think about it, the more I want to watch it back. It was class. It was genuinely class. I think Dijak is the right person to advance right here. And he's going to be facing Ethan Allen. That's cool. I think that's really cool. That's going to be such an interesting dynamic there. And I don't know who's going to come out on top. Yeah, I loved it. This was such an awesome, awesome match, and one that if you get the chance, go out of your way to see. Then we had the interval, and then we came back to the final semi-final match, and that was Trent Severn taking on Kenny Williams. This started out pretty damn hot because Kenny Williams jumped Trent as he was making his entrance. They brawled right past us, right to the bar, and they're brawling by the bar. Trent gets a little kid to slap Kenny Williams across the face, and he hit him really damn hard, and it was really funny. It was really funny. I think Trent was laughing as well. Like, he proper, we thought he was going to hit him on the chest. He hit him across the face. It was really funny. And then they brawl towards the bar. Kenny Williams gets up on the balcony, hits a dive off the balcony. It's all insane. They brawl back to the ring. It was like just unbelievable chaos. Some refs trying to control the entire thing. It's breaking down. And then they get in the ring and they have some really cool moments in here. I loved Trent hitting the Tyler driver, trying to hit the bitter end, snapping the fingers of Kenny Williams. It was awesome. That callback to Mustache Mountain, to British strong style from Trent. I love it when he incorporates that into his matches. He hit a sick Emerald Flosion from the top rope. Looked awesome for a great near fall, and then it sort of escalated with brawling on the outside of the ring, and a member of the ring crew gets involved, sort of gets pulled in the way, gets grabbed by Kenny Williams and sort of yanked, and Trent sort of pulls him in the way, and Kenny Williams goes to hit the mist. He tries to mist Trent in the face, misses, and instead hits this poor member of the ring crew. It was cool because I wasn't expecting a mist from Kenny Williams. I haven't seen enough of his matches. Maybe he incorporates it into more matches, but I haven't seen enough Kenny Williams, unfortunately. And then they get back into the ring, and Trent hits his back chop as Kenny Williams goes to the top rope and goes for a dive, hits that, and manages to hit the Burning Hammer for the 1, 2, 3. I loved it. This was a really, really great match. Very different. We got a big crowd brawl, which was fun to see. Yeah, I have no complaints with this as well. Awesome. Trent is going to face Mark Haskins. This is a rematch from the main event of the first Burning Heart show. I'm very intrigued to see where we go from here. Will it be Trent or Haskins? Because what that final could... There's so many combinations. I think the final might be Trent versus Dijak, but I could also go for Ethan Allen versus Mark Haskins. I could go for Haskins versus Dijak. So many different ways that this tournament could go right now that I'm very excited and cannot wait for tonight. Next up, we got Dani Luna taking on Harley Hudson. Hometown hero, Harley Hudson. Harley Hudson's so great. She's so great in the ring. Like, just her character and the way she portrays herself is really cool. I love her look. She's awesome. And Dani Luna, obviously, part of Subculture. This was really good. I did feel like maybe after such a hot brawl from the Kenny Williams, I did feel like the crowd was a little bit more restrained, but they were really on board for Harley Hudson. Like, really on board for Harley Hudson. And there was some cool stuff in this match. It was a really interestingly well-worked match, but it didn't have the amount of heat that maybe I wanted it to. This was like pure graps. This was like really good in-ring graps. And I think, I don't know, I think maybe the dynamics, I think people were unsure as to who was heel and who was face, because Harley Hudson was being a little bit heelish. She was arguing with the ref, sort of pulling the ref, but I think the crowd wanted to cheer for Harley Hudson, so I think it was a little bit, I don't know, I just feel like the tone and the engagement of the crowd, but it had been not a long show, but everything had been really hot up until this point, and that's a shame because I love Dani Luna, I love Harley Hudson, but I thought this was a really, really engaging match, and Dani Luna ultimately picked up the win. Yeah, it was a really good match, and it set the stage ready for that main event, like the main event, the tag team match. I think we were all ready for. I want to see these like have another match. I think that'd be cool. I think if they have another match for a women's title, maybe we could get that. We could get the Burning Hearts Pro Wrestling women's title on the go. Have people like Lizzie Evo, Riho, Nina Samuels all start make their way to Burning Heart as well. Like, you really, really build up a stacked women's division. Yeah, this was a really, really good match, but I feel like the crowd weren't necessarily there, unfortunately. But the crowd were there for this main event. FSU, Eddie Dennis, and Mark Andrews taking on the grizzled young veterans James Drake and Zach Gibson. This was one of the loudest crowds I've heard in a long time. Like, be invested for something. They were so into the grizzled young veterans here. Grizzled young veterans, obviously the hometown heroes representing Liverpool, and they put on a tag team clinic. This was just great tag team wrestling. Everything about it was really, really well done. From FSU trying to get the babyface reactions, but then ultimately playing heel in the match, working over James Drake for a long, long time. He was just like getting pummeled by FSU and just isolating him. It felt like a really strategic tag match and really strategic tag wrestling. I love that about this. And ultimately, Zach Gibson gets the hot tag. He comes in, makes his hot tag, and is just destroying everyone. He's destroying Eddie Dennis, destroying Mark Andrews. Hits like a double kind of lung blower to them. He sort of wraps them up and pulls Eddie Dennis over with Mark Andrews underneath him. It looked really cool and really innovative. And the way that worked and the fighting spirit that built up in Zach Gibson got the crowd so hyped and so invested. He was just amazing in this match, so fired up, and the crowd would just erupt whenever he did anything. And then it sort of escalated to the outside. It went to the outside where James Drake hit like a lung blower kind of thing onto Mark Andrews, who hit his chest right on the ring apron. That was so well done. Eddie Dennis then takes out Rob Drake on the outside. James Drake. Rob Drake is his brother. I've nearly done that so many times in this video. But he's taken out on the outside, and then it's Eddie Dennis and Zach Gibson in the ring, and they're just trading blows. Well, Eddie Dennis is more or less beating up Zach Gibson, but Zach Gibson just getting more and more fired up. He's getting more and more fired up. Hits a diving lung blower to Eddie Dennis, and then it's like, grit your teeth. He screams, grit your teeth, gets the tag to James Drake, and they hit sort of the their sweeping leg and the clothesline for the 1-2-3, and the GYV pick up the win. They are your new Burning Heart Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champions. Then it looks like they might get jumped at the end. FSU take the belts from them. They're standing face to face, and ultimately they hand it to the GYV. They leave the ring, and the GYV pose with the belts, center of the ring, and that's how it closed off the show. You know, honestly, this was one of the most fun wrestling experiences that I've had live in a long time. I say that, I can't remember, I'm completely blanking on the last show that I went to, but it feels like a long time. This was so fun. This was genuinely so fun, even though I wasn't necessarily as high on the women's match as Danny Luna and Harley Hudson as I wanted to be. I just had an absolute blast with this show. I genuinely did. This is one of those why I love pro wrestling kind of things, because I love the matches, I love the storytelling in the ring, and each one of these matches did something in that regard. And yeah, I just had an absolute blast. Overall, I'll give this show, I give it a 4.5 out of 5. If I'm rating, 4.5 out of 5 from me. I'm hoping to see let's do that. Hopes for tonight. I think Trent will win the tournament. I think Trent will carry the Burning Heart Pro Wrestling Championship. This could age horribly in 24 hours. I think it's going to be Trent Severn. I'd love to see a big angle, a big swerve or something, big heel turn maybe. I'm really excited for the scramble match, because you've got the 4 people who went out, so Kenny Williams, Robbie X, Luke Jacobs and Kid Lykos, all competing in a 6-man scramble, as well as 2 people who are doing some of the wrestling seminars as well. I think that's going to be awesome. It's going to be a really fun show. I'm really excited to see what happens from here. And yeah, I want to know your thoughts. Were you there? Were you not? Let me know, and I'll try to reply to every single one of them. Thank you all ever so much for your support, and have a nice day.